Hey warriors, welcome back to the channel. You think you're poor because you have nothing. Not, you're poor because you think like a slave. Machiavelli warned, poverty isn't a lack of money, it's a lack of power, and the truth is brutal. The world doesn't pity the powerless, it feeds on them. The moment you start begging for sympathy, you're not asking for help. You're announcing to everyone that you can be controlled. You see, society raised you to fear scarcity. They told you to stay humble, stay quiet, and stay grateful for crumbs. They told you to pray for a better life instead of building one. And while you waited, the powerful moved in silence, taking everything you were told to wait for. That's how they break you. Not with chains, but with obedience. Not by taking your money, but by taking your mind. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived. When your reality becomes dependent on approval, you're already conquered. When you believe poverty is permanent, it becomes your religion. But here's the truths you were never supposed to hear. You can be broke and still be powerful. You can be surrounded by scarcity and still act like a king. Because kings are not defined by gold, they are defined by control. The real battle isn't about wealth, it's about dominance over your own emotions, your time, and your energy. A man who controls those controls everything. So stop saying I'm broke. Start saying I'm building. Stop saying I have nothing. Start saying I need nothing. Because when you stop seeing yourself as a victim, the world stops treating you like one. This is not motivation, this is war. And today I'll show you how to think like power, even when the world calls you poor. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My mind is my wealth. Number 1, poverty is a mind virus. You're not poor because you have nothing. You're poor because you've been trained to think small, to kneel mentally long before life ever forced you to. Poverty begins as an infection in the mind, a virus that rewires your thoughts to obey, to settle, to accept mediocrity as destiny. The world doesn't have to chain you if your mind is already enslaved. Society calls it humility, but it's really psychological submission. The quiet belief that you were born to serve rather than to command. This belief spreads through your habits, your words, your posture, until you start apologizing for wanting more. The poor man's curse is not his lack of resources, it's his worship of limits. He looks at power and convinces himself it's evil, because deep down he's afraid he'll never have it. That fear becomes his master. Machiavelli once said, "He who becomes a master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it will be destroyed by it." The same applies to your mind. If you don't destroy the weak thoughts that rule you, they'll destroy your potential. Every time you tell yourself, I can't, every time you envy instead of strategizing, you feed that virus. You give away the throne in your head to doubt, to comfort, to fear. The system thrives on this weakness. It wants obedient workers, not powerful thinkers. It rewards compliance and punishes rebellion. And the moment you start questioning why you live like a servant, they call you arrogant. But arrogance is not your enemy. It's the first spark of self-respect. The mind that refuses to bow is the mind that begins to rule. Dark psychology teaches that control always begins with perception. If you see yourself as less, the world will treat you as less. You project poverty before you ever experience it. Your energy tells people whether they can dominate you. That's why the rich can lose everything and still rise again. Their minds never learned submission. The poor, on the other hand, could win the lottery and still think like victims. They would waste fortune trying to look rich instead of learning to stay powerful. It's never about money, it's about mindset. When your brain is programmed to depend, you will always kneel before those who appear stronger. Break that program. Stop seeking rescue. Stop believing anyone will come save you. No one is coming, and that's your advantage. Because once you accept that, you become unstoppable. You stop asking for permission to rise. You start moving with silent intention, and the world begins to shift. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, your mind reclaims a piece of its power. Every time you reject self-pity, you silence the virus. Poverty is not in your bank account. It's in your thoughts, and only you can burn it out. You must see yourself as dangerous, as capable, as unbreakable, because the mind that refuses to kneel can never be owned. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My mind bows to no one. Number 2, power is a performance. The world doesn't reward truth, it rewards dominance. Most people never understand this because they're addicted to appearing honest instead of appearing strong. But Machiavelli knew that appearance rules perception and perception rules power. When you look weak, you invite predators. When you act helpless, you signal permission to be controlled. People aren't kind, they're calculating. They measure you silently, reading your tone, your eyes, your posture, searching for signs of fear or doubt. The moment they find it, you become prey. That's why power is performance. You must play strength until it becomes real. You must train your face to show certainty even when your heart is burning. The powerful act unshaken because they understand one brutal truth. The world cannot tell the difference between confidence and reality. If you look untouchable, you become it. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." He understood that most men are guided by appearances, and that illusion often outweighs truth. This is dark psychology, the manipulation of perception to control outcomes. The average man shows his wounds. The superior man hides them like secrets. Even in chaos, he stands still while others tremble. That calmness terrifies the weak because it breaks their illusion of control. Never look defeated, even when you're bleeding. That's not lying. That's strategy. You wear confidence like armor, so your enemies waste their strength attacking your surface while you quietly rebuild behind it. The moment you look helpless, they stop respecting you. Respect is not given to the vulnerable. It's given to the man who can make others doubt his limits, and that doubt is your weapon. In a room full of talkers, be the one who watches. When chaos erupts, speak last, move slow, hold your gaze steady. The man who appears composed controls the tempo. Weakness is not just physical, it's visible through emotion, reaction, and tone. If your face reveals panic, you lose before the fight begins. Confidence is camouflage. It hides your insecurity and blinds your rivals. Use it with precision. Let people assume you know more than you do. Let them believe you have allies they cannot see. Let them overestimate your strength. It's better than being underestimated. The world worships images more than reality. That's why kings wear crowns even when their kingdoms crumble. They understand that power lives in the performance of authority. You must build that presence even when your pockets are empty. Stand tall, speak less, control your body language. You don't need luxury to command attention. You need composure. That's what separates men who lead from men who follow. Every look, every gesture, every pause, it's part of your act. You're not pretending to be powerful. You're conditioning others to treat you as such. Once they do, you start believing it too. And that belief reshapes your destiny. The poor act small because they think small. The powerful act grand because they refuse to be anything less. Never look helpless again, because the moment you do, the world will prove you right. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I perform power flawlessly. Number 3, the poor man's trap. The greatest poverty isn't financial, it's emotional dependence. Most people aren't chasing success, they're chasing approval. They need to be seen, understood, accepted. That's the poor man's trap. It looks harmless, but it drains your power faster than hunger ever could. The moment you need others to validate your worth, you hand them control over your identity. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if one must choose." Why? Because love depends on others, but fear you can create yourself. Validation is a leash disguised as comfort. When you seek it, you're announcing that your emotions are for sale. And the world loves buyers. It gives them nothing and takes everything. The weak talk too much, explaining their motives, defending their pain, begging to be understood. But the powerful understand silence is sharper than speech. Silence forces people to guess. Guessing makes them uneasy, and unease equals respect. The poor man confuses noise for strength, thinking that if he keeps talking, people will finally believe him. But in truth, every extra word is a confession of insecurity. You can always recognize weakness. It seeks understanding. Strength doesn't care. Strength doesn't explain. The lion doesn't justify its roar. The world already knows what it means. That's how you must operate. Every time you beg to be seen, you lower your value. Every time you explain your pain, you lose leverage. The poor crave attention because it's the only currency they think they have left. The rich in spirit, however, use mystery as power. They don't show their suffering, they weaponize it. They walk into rooms like they owe nothing to anyone. That's dominance. Dark psychology teaches that people only value what they can't fully read. If they can predict you, they can control you. If you're emotionally transparent, they can manipulate you. The antidote is restraint. Learn to let your silence speak. Watch how the room changes when you stop explaining yourself. They start respecting you, not because you demand it, but because your lack of reaction frightens them. People fear what they can't decode. And that's where your power lives, in being unreadable. The poor man craves recognition. The powerful man craves control. Stop chasing validation like a child chasing light. You don't need anyone's permission to be powerful. You don't need applause to know your worth. Let them misunderstand you. It's a small price for dominance. The truth is, validation is addiction. It feels good at first, but it enslaves you quietly. Every like, every compliment, every nod of approval becomes another chain. Break it. Walk away from it. Be willing to be misunderstood, even hated, because that's what true independence costs. Weak men are terrified of being disliked. Strong men understand that influence always creates enemies. So choose respect over affection. Choose mystery over exposure. Choose command over comfort. Stop explaining. Stop defending. Just exist with quiet authority. That's how kings move. The moment you stop begging to be understood, you start being obeyed. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence speaks power. Number 4. Think like a king. A man with nothing to lose is dangerous, but a man who acts like he's already won is untouchable. This is where the psychology of kingship begins, not in possessions, but in perception. The poor man waits for abundance to feel worthy, while the powerful man uses scarcity as fuel to dominate. Machiavelli once said, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." Kings understand that the quality of their circle mirrors the strength of their mindset. That means even when you have nothing, you must act as though your time and presence are gold. When you move like a king, people start treating you like one. Every gesture, every decision, every silence must communicate authority. The world believes what you project. If you project control, it will obey. If you project desperation, it will consume you. Even in poverty, you can carry yourself with composure. Your tone can remain steady, your eyes can stay cold, and your emotions can stay locked behind the walls of discipline. These are weapons no one can confiscate. The man who commands himself commands destiny. Thinking like a king means refusing to participate in chaos. It means standing still while others scramble. You don't react, you respond. You don't chase validation. You let your presence do the talking. When you walk into a room, you measure it silently, not with arrogance, but with precision. Kings don't rush because speed belongs to the desperate. They move slow not because they lack urgency, but because they trust their dominance. This is dark psychology in its purest form. Control perception and you control outcome. Every word you speak must sound intentional. Every decision must look final. People respect confidence that doesn't need proof. You must become that presence. The man who doesn't need to prove he's powerful because power vibrates through his restraint. The illusion of certainty is more valuable than the reality of wealth. Poor minds reveal stress. Royal minds reveal nothing. Kings understand that emotions are currency and wasting them publicly is the same as burning gold. When you have nothing, you can still rule through composure. You can control your body language, your reactions, and your narrative. Even your silence can command a room if it's backed by conviction. The weak think they need material things to gain status, but the strong know status is energy. It's how you sit, how you speak, how you breathe. Control those, and you can lose everything yet still look like the one who decides. That illusion intimidates everyone who's secretly fragile. People serve confidence because it gives them something to believe in. They'd rather follow a calm liar than a panicked truth teller. That's human nature, and Machiavelli mastered it. He understood that leadership is theater and every man is performing. You must play the role so completely that even your reflection starts to believe it. When you act like a king long enough, the world aligns with that belief. It's not pretending. It's programming your subconscious to command rather than comply. Never look defeated even when you're surrounded by loss. Never lower your voice even when you're uncertain, because once you act powerless, you will be treated as such. Royalty isn't about crowns. It's about control. You must think, breathe, and walk like power itself. Kings are not born. They are declared. Declare it now. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I move like a king. Number 5. Detachment makes you dangerous. The man who needs nothing controls everything. That truth is what terrifies the world the most, because society is built on dependency. Every advertisement, every relationship, every system is designed to make you crave, to make you need, to make you attach. But the moment you stop needing approval, comfort, or certainty, you become untouchable. Machiavelli once said, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. The detached man is feared because he cannot be seduced by either. When you no longer hunger for validation, no one can lure you. When you stop needing affection, no one can break you. When you don't chase money, people start offering it to earn your attention. Detachment is not coldness, it's control. It's the art of mastering desire so it doesn't master you. Weak men worship what they lack. Strong men observe what they want and choose strategically if it's worth their energy. Detachment is the difference between desperation and dominance. It makes your presence heavier, your decisions sharper, your aura unpredictable. And unpredictability is pure power. People fear what they can't predict because it makes them feel powerless. That's why the man who stays calm while everyone else is emotional becomes the center of gravity in every room. He doesn't react. He calculates. He doesn't beg. He chooses. His silence makes others talk. His stillness makes others fidget. This is dark psychology at its highest level. The less you show need, the more control you have over those who do. When you detach, you no longer serve other people's expectations. You stop being manipulated by fear of loss. You stop reacting to insults, delays, betrayals, or praise. You become emotionally self-contained, and that makes you unpredictable. The world can't play games with someone who refuses to participate. The poor man clings to everything, money, people, opinions, because his identity depends on them. The powerful man can walk away from anything and remain himself. Detachment builds that strength. It's the silent declaration that nothing owns you. Not success, not failure, not even love. That's not heartlessness. It's emotional strategy. Machiavelli would call it power through independence. The ability to rule yourself so completely that no one else ever can. You can love deeply, but you must never need deeply. You can care, but never depend. That difference separates kings from captives. The detached mind doesn't rush, doesn't chase, doesn't prove. It lets others exhaust themselves trying to impress or understand. Meanwhile, it observes everything, collecting data, calculating the right moment to strike. That's control. Moving when you choose, not when provoked. You must learn to detach from outcomes because obsession blinds judgment. Detachment sharpens it. When you stop needing success immediately, you make better decisions. When you stop fearing loss, you stop losing power. Detachment makes you silent when others panic. It makes you mysterious when others overshare. It turns pain into clarity and rejection into focus. It's not emotionless, it's selective emotion. The world can't trap a man who refuses to be owned by desire. Once you reach that state, people start chasing your attention because your indifference makes them feel unimportant. That's dominance. Detachment doesn't weaken connection, it defines it. It teaches others that your time, energy, and peace are luxuries, not entitlements. The man who can walk away from everything is the man no one dares to play with. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. Nothing owns me. Number 6, turn pain into power. Pain is not your enemy, it's your initiation. Every wound you've endured, every betrayal you've survived, every loss you've buried was training you to evolve beyond emotion into calculation. Machiavelli once said, "Never waste the opportunity offered by a good crisis." He understood that suffering is not just something to survive, it's something to use. The weak collapse under pain because they think it's punishment. The strong rise through it because they understand its data. Every time you get hurt, you are handed information about people, about your limits, about yourself. Pain is pure clarity. It removes illusions, strips lies, and shows you who's real and who's pretending. That's why most men run from it. They can't handle truth without comfort, but the man who learns to endure it without breaking becomes untouchable. Pain exposes weakness, but it also reveals strength. The difference between slaves and strategists is how they process suffering. The slave complains. The strategist analyzes. He watches the pattern of betrayal, dissects it, and refines his defense. He doesn't drown in heartbreak, he turns it into armor. Every insult becomes a lesson in human behavior. Every humiliation becomes a reminder of what he'll never allow again. That's Machiavellian transformation, using suffering as the raw material for dominance. Emotional wounds are like blades. In weak hands they cut deeper, but in strong ones they forge weapons. Pain can poison you, or it can prepare you, depending on how you interpret it. Most people attach emotion to suffering and call it tragedy. The powerful detach, study the pattern, and call it training. Pain is the only teacher that never lies. Success flatters you, comfort dulls you, but pain tells you the truth straight to your face. It doesn't negotiate, it doesn't comfort, it corrects. You must learn to suffer consciously. That means observing your emotions without letting them control your actions. Let the pain burn away delusion, but never your purpose. When people hurt you, don't seek revenge immediately. Let time sharpen you. Every scar is a reminder that you survived when others wanted you broken. That's a privilege, not a curse. The most dangerous man is the one who knows how to smile while bleeding because no one can predict him. Pain transforms him into something beyond ordinary. It creates patience, precision, and power. The world expects suffering to humble you. Instead, let it harden you. Use rejection to strengthen your boundaries. Betrayal to sharpen your instincts. Loss to build focus. Every struggle can be recycled into dominance if you stay aware. Machiavelli believed pain reveals the soul of leadership. It separates the emotional from the strategic. Leaders endure not because they don't feel, but because they convert feeling into control. Every time life strikes you, respond with mastery. You don't cry about it, you catalog it, adapt, and rise sharper. The world respects those who survive storms with grace, not those who drown. loudly. Pain doesn't destroy you unless you identify with it. You are not your wounds. You are the weapon they built. When you learn to love pressure, discomfort, and solitude, you start seeing pain as privilege, because only those chosen to lead are tested so severely. Remember, the fire that melts glass hardens steel. You decide which one you are. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My pain builds power. Number 7. Rule yourself. He who cannot control himself will always be ruled by someone who can. Machiavelli's wisdom cuts sharper than any sword because it exposes the greatest truth about power. Control begins within. Every man who fails to master his impulses becomes a servant to those who exploit them. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about supremacy. It's the art of governing your emotions, your words, and your reactions so completely that no external force can steer you. The weak man is easily provoked, easily tempted, easily distracted. His strings are visible, and the world pulls them at will. The strong man operates differently. He delays gratification, calculates before reacting, and never lets emotion dictate movement. That is real freedom, the ability to remain unshaken while everyone else dances to chaos. Machiavelli once said, "A prince must learn how not to be good and to use this knowledge or not according to necessity." He wasn't glorifying cruelty. He was teaching control. Self-mastery gives you the power to adapt without losing yourself. To rule yourself means knowing when to attack, when to retreat, and when to wait. Most men destroy their opportunities because they can't sit still. They chase every distraction, respond to every insult, and waste energy, proving points that don't matter. The ruler within understands patience is dominance disguised as silence. The one who can pause owns the moment. Discipline is the highest currency of power because it cannot be stolen, only built. Money fades, alliances betray, but self-command endures. The man who conquers his own chaos becomes the one others follow in theirs. When you can direct your focus like a blade, the world bends to your rhythm. But the undisciplined are prisoners of impulse, trapped in cycles of regret. They speak before thinking, spend before earning, react before understanding. They exist, but they never rule. You must reverse that pattern. Turn every impulse into instruction. When anger rises, study it. When fear whispers, confront it. When doubt appears, dissect it. Awareness breeds control, and control breeds respect. Dark psychology teaches that people unconsciously submit to whoever appears more composed. If your emotions stay contained while theirs unravel, they instinctively yield. That's psychological dominance, the quiet authority that makes others follow without command. Self-discipline is not suppression, it's weaponized restraint. It allows you to choose strategy over reaction. When you master your inner chaos, manipulation loses its hold. You stop falling for temptations because you see them as traps. You stop chasing recognition because you understand it's a form of control. The disciplined man doesn't need to prove he's strong. His stability proves it for him. Control yourself and you'll control your destiny. Every empire that fell did so from internal decay before external invasion. The same is true for men. You lose the moment you surrender your will to impulse. Be calm when provoked. Be focused when surrounded by noise. Be steady when everyone else trembles. That's the mark of power. Machiavelli taught that those who cannot rule themselves are doomed to obey forever. So rule yourself relentlessly, your mind, your time, your emotions, because that's where every throne begins. Never think you're poor, even when you have nothing, because poverty isn't a condition, it's a mindset. The man who controls himself, his emotions, his focus, and his reactions is richer than kings who depend on others for validation. Machiavelli taught that fortune favors the prepared mind, the one that knows how to adapt, to act without begging, and to rise without applause. You can lose money, relationships, comfort, but if you refuse to lose control, you'll rebuild everything stronger than before. The poor man waits for a miracle. The powerful man becomes his own. The truth is, life will test you. It will strip you down, betray you, humiliate you, and demand to know who you are when you have nothing left. Most will crumble, but you will not, because now you understand that kings are not born from comfort. They are forged in chaos. Every struggle is a crown in disguise. Every scar is proof that you survived where others surrendered. You don't need validation. You don't need wealth, and you don't need luck. You need control. You need strategy. You need the ruthless discipline to rise silently until the world has no choice but to notice. That's how power is built, not through noise, but through consistency. So stop saying you're broke. Stop saying you're trapped. You are neither. You are unrefined power waiting to be shaped. You are the storm they never saw coming. If this message hit you deeply, prove it. Like this video to remind yourself of your strength. Share it with someone who's still enslaved by their excuses. And subscribe, because this war for power has just begun, and every lesson that follows will make you harder to break. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I own my fate.